Welcome to another edition of DIY Why Don't You? This month we're doing mushroom curry and naan from scratch. This is presented by the St. Joseph Public Library and me, Jen Wildhagen. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Here are the ingredients you'll need for the naan. Here we have our 2 cups of flour, our 3 tablespoons of yogurt, and this is just plain Greek yogurt, our 3 teaspoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of rapid dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, some butter that we'll be melting a couple tablespoons of for brushing on later, and then we have some flour back there, some water, olive oil, and my flavor of choice today is garlic powder. And then there's the flour back there for later when we're rolling out. We're going to start out by mixing all of our dry ingredients. And whisk them together. That's about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic that I put in. Just want to mix that really well. And then we're going to, in a smaller bowl, add our wet ingredients. So in goes the yogurt, we'll mix that up with our water, and then we'll add our oil. And whisk it together. Now we'll pour the wet into the dry and stir it up with a fork until it looks like it's mixed pretty well. Then I'm going to put some flour on my hands so I don't get too stuck. And I am going to just gently work with the dough here, forming it into a ball. Not kneading it too much, not working with it too much. Just making sure that all the ingredients get smooshed together. And it'll turn into a nice sticky dough, as you can see here. Okay, now we're going to take a large bowl and coat it with some oil. And then we'll pop our dough ball in there. And now we're going to cover it with plastic wrap and set it aside for an hour to an hour and a half in a nice warm location. Let's get started on our curry. We're going to make a masala paste first. That's one of the ingredients in the curry. And here are the ingredients for the main curry. All of the recipes can be found on our website as well as in the links. So this looks like a lot of ingredients. It is a lot of ingredients, but they're not terribly exotic. You can find them at Natural Grocer, Hy-Vee, Price Chopper, anywhere here in town has almost all of these. We've got our turmeric, garam masala, cumin, coriander, cinnamon, cardamom, chili, clove, and then onions, tomatoes, salt. Okay, let's get started on our masala paste. We're going to put in our oil and start our onions sauteing. So that's going to be on a medium-high heat. Just put our onions right in there and let them start sizzling. And you want to let them cook until they start to turn a bit translucent. Give them a stir now and then. You can see them starting to dance in the oil. Okay, now we are ready to add our tomatoes. Give them a good stir and let them start cooking down. And then we'll start dumping in our seasonings. So everything you saw in that ingredients list goes right in. And now we're going to let that cook down probably about 5 minutes, maybe as many as 7 minutes. We want those tomatoes to get nice and mushy. So we're just going to let them cook down here. All right, it's cooked down. The tomatoes are nice and soft. So I'm going to transfer some of this to my mortar and pestle and mash it up a bit because I still want it a little bit chunky. If you want a nice smooth paste, go ahead and pop it in a small food processor. That will work really well. I am just releasing all of the juices from the tomato, mashing down the onion, but still leaving quite a bit chunky. You see, looks much like a paste. And we'll set that aside after they're all done. Now we want to do a rough chop on our mushrooms. Usually you'll get 4 or 5 pieces from each one because we're doing nice big chunks of mushroom in the curry. And don't be afraid to use the stems, just chop off the brown parts at the bottom that you don't really want to eat. Alright, we're going to pour our 2 tablespoons of oil into our hot skillet and add our onions to saute them until they become translucent. And that takes just a few minutes for them to get nice and translucent for us. Then we're going to add the masala paste that we made earlier and our ginger and garlic paste. Give those onions a quick stir. And in goes our masala. And our ginger and garlic paste. Let's mix all that up really well. Release the aromas. By the way, this smells amazing. Okay, now we're just going to add all of our spices. Our chili, our coriander, our turmeric, our garam masala, our salt. If you're not a huge salt fan, just add a little bit. You don't need a lot. You can even add it to taste after. Yeah, I'm just adding a little bit there. Give it a good stir, and then we're going to let those seasonings roast for a bit. Okay, and now they have roasted a bit, and we are ready to start throwing in our mushrooms and our peppers. Give them a stir to coat them completely in the spice. And then we want to let them cook down so that the mushrooms start releasing some of their moisture and they become nice and soft. All right, now we're ready to add the water to actually make the gravy. So just determine how thick or thin you want your gravy to be for the curry, and then you can add more water if you want it a little bit thinner, but you know, don't start out with too much. It's always easier to add than to take away, although you can just uncover it later to reduce some of the liquid while you cook. All right. Now we'll cover it, bring to a boil, and then lower the heat and simmer for about 7 minutes. And there we go. That's a nice thick curry. Looks and smells delicious. Remember, if you want it a little thinner, just add a bit more water, but I'm not going to. And now we can get back to our naan. So we've let it rise for an hour and a half. I'm going to flour the surface, flour my hands, and get that dough out there. Still nice and sticky. You just work with it a little bit, gently kneading it. You can roll it into a tube like this and try to figure out sixths, but that's not really my strong point, doing it that way. So I'm gonna roll it into a circle and then just cut it like a pie into sixths. That's close enough. Now each one of those will become a little dough ball. And I have a cast iron skillet already heating on medium-high heat over there. Now I'm going to roll into an oval shape one of those dough balls. And you want it to be about 1/8 of an inch thick. Then I'm going to lay it right onto the skillet. It's a dry skillet, no oil. And you want to wait until you see bubbles starting to form on top. See those bubbles starting to come up? Little air pockets. And the whole bread is starting to puff up a bit. Yeah, that's pretty. And I want it to get actually dark brown on the other side, so I'm not gonna flip it just yet. It usually takes just a couple minutes per side to get a nice dark brown, not burned, although if you burn it a little bit, that's okay too, don't sweat it. Okay, I think this one's just about ready to flip. Maybe just a couple seconds more. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's nice. And you brush your butter over the top. Let it cook a bit, because you want it to get that dark on the bottom too, and it'll get that dark in spots, not as a whole piece. And while that's cooking, you can get your other naan ready to go. This makes 6 naan, this recipe does. So you see how those spots got dark? Now I have my naan, my rice with mushroom curry, and I am ready to eat. I really appreciate you tuning in again, and I hope you enjoyed watching mushroom curry and naan from start to finish. We'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching.